So it's another Transformer Tuesday today. Not much was really revealed, just a pre-order for our MPM masterpiece, Nemesis Prime from the Bumblebee movie. Not much else really. Some coins were revealed, all things that I'll probably cover very lightly in the Saturday night live stream coming up this weekend. Again, this Thursday, we're going to be finding out about our new Hall of Fame winner, which will probably lead to new product and everything like that. So we're going to do yet again another Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question. Again, you know the old song and dance. If you join the Patreon, you get your name in the end credit scroll, Discord access, all of that stuff. I'm not going to repeat it again a second time. We already did one this week. And now we're going to do another one here today from longtime patron Cringe McCringle. And Cringe McCringle wants to know, and this is a good one because there's always a lot of new people coming into the Transformer fandom. So this is a really good one. I know a lot of people that find out about Transformers. Sometimes they do it through the podcast here, and this is just great. So let's go into it. Cringe McCringle wants to know, hey, yo, Proto. I'm going to be cashing in my Patreon listener question this month. Ever since TFCon Toronto this past July, I've been wanting to get myself more involved within the Transformer fandom. After sitting front row at the charity auction, Q&A, and so on, and going to the parts parties, which is always my awesome parts party, I really want to start participating more in the fandom in a more creative way. The problem lies is that I don't really know how and what to do. I've tried making videos on YouTube, but editing is such a pain. I had a couple of ideas, but I'm not sure how to get my name out there. I would love to know what you think on the matter, and if you have any advice. Thanks for your help, Proto, especially within the past few years of collecting with Transformers. Cringe McCringle. Well, thank you again for all the kind words, Cringe McCringle, and meeting you at TFCon and all the people that we got to see at the past TFCon for the 20th anniversary of that convention. When it comes to expanding your stuff and what you want to do within the fandom or just getting your feet wet in the fandom, I mean, I've been there from the beginning. I was there when the online fandom of Transformers was birthed with ATT and then later on Benson Yee's forums and then everything that really got larger with transfandom.org turning into TFW 2005 and beyond and all the different forums since then, Sabertron and Allspark and everything like that. Now we kind of have more, we kind of splinter more into using Twitter as kind of a foundation with forums and Facebook groups and everything. But I always say with every individual, and this is something that it's completely unique to each person. This isn't something that like it's a catch-all, but when it comes to wanting to be more involved creatively, you have to really discover what it is that you're good at. That's the most important thing. I mean, if you're someone who can draw, you could actually draw pretty decent, get a Twitter account, get in a DeviantArt account, join Transformer forums and share that art. Heck, if you're really good with that art, maybe even submit some of it to whoever's the current license holder of the Transformer comics. And you never know, you might get a shot. People tend to forget that today almost every single one of the artists working on Transformers today in some shape or form, whether it be trading cards or comic book covers or comic book interior art or box art, they were all childhood fans. So just because you're a fan doesn't mean you won't also get an opportunity if you're good enough. So it's something where, if you draw, put it out there. Pat Lee, he discovered a whole bunch of artists that are famous today just by going through social media and DeviantArt and stuff like that. Well, the social media that existed back in the early 2000s. But that's how people you got to put your stuff out there. And that applies to if you're someone who's good at writing. If you're good at writing, kind of the same thing like art. Do you do fan fiction, short stories? Put that stuff out there. Put it on forums, put it on, make your own little Tumblr account and post your text files or your document files of your fan fiction or anything like that. Just if you're creative, the most important thing is to put that stuff out there. And then sooner or later, someone's going to find it and enjoy it. And usually what I always say is when you're putting stuff out there, if you want people to find it, and I've told this to artists a lot, if you want people to find your art, you got to put it on something that's a more public space. You can't just kind of have a website and hope that people are going to find your website. put it on a forum, go on a Facebook group that's about Transformer art and put it out there. People will be able to find it a lot easier that way. You got to be at the crossroads. You got to be at that busy street, holding your sign in a lot of ways. You can't just be sitting in your kitchen hoping that someone's going to find your art that way. That's always how it's been. When it comes to YouTube, you could apply that in a lot of different ways when it comes to creativity. I mean, just going back to the two things that I just talked about in terms of art and writing, if you're an artist, you could do time lapses of your creations with your art, or your live drawings. I know like Aaron Archer, he does those to great success, and even Josh Perez, he uses a different kind of streaming service. He uses, I think it's Picarto or something, which is another streaming service. So if you're someone who's really good at art, having different kind of streaming platforms and doing live art stuff, or even time lapse stuff and then posting that on YouTube, that's one way to do it. If you're a writer, live narration, skits, using action figures. I see tons of that. Tons and tons of that. You don't need to be able to draw to have your writing come to life. You just get a couple of action figures. You narrate over those action figures with mild editing. Tons of views with that stuff, let me tell you. There's plenty of success with that. And that's just, like just the writing and drawing factor. I mean, but even if you're someone who can't do that, can't draw, can't write, can't do any of that, there's still other ways that you could participate in the fandom. Like number one, conventions. You go to conventions, Transformer conventions, there's always a way to get involved. There's always a way to help in some way. People always ask me, like, how do you become staff at a convention like TFCon or BotCon? And I always say it starts with being a volunteer. Volunteer your time. Right away you get to know people. You become part of a crew, and you kind of just work your way up from there. And the reason why I always say you have to start with volunteering, because they need to know like who's reliable and who isn't. There's always been some volunteers that were, kind of like they want to volunteer. When they volunteer, you see how they're kind of a space case. So you need to always kind of start with volunteering. But then from volunteering, who knows? Quite a few TFCon staff today were originally volunteers. So that's kind of like how you move up that kind of food chain in a lot of ways. If you're someone like me, in the past, I used to do extensive panels, sometimes 3 a convention, which I look back now and go, man, what was I thinking? Recently now, I just kind of focus on doing the charity auction, since what I could contribute is my knowledge and my knowledge of toy prices and the current markets and stuff like that, and the Transformer Finance videos, all that stuff that's donated, making sure that the maximum value of that stuff is then put up front for the Make-A-Wish Foundation for children and stuff like that, so we get the maximum money so those kids could get their wishes. Using my knowledge for some kind of benefit for the convention. And of course, I used to write the trivia contests and stuff like that too. I've slowed down a lot with a lot of TFCon stuff just because I've started doing other stuff, and it's just been making it way more busy. And not to mention, like you mentioned in your question, the parts party. Doing my parts party is also a huge overtaking, but hey, it's the best party in town. There ain't a parts party like a Proto Man parts party, the Triple P. Unless you're a mega toy fan. The old BotCon days parts parties were epic, to say the least. Now the only panels I really do are kind of like historical ones with Aaron Archer, from the Transformer brand between like 98 to 2015-ish, that bubble. But I mean, there's ways that you could be involved with that too. You volunteer if you have a good panel. If you feel that you could contribute your knowledge somehow, you could maybe volunteer to do a panel or something. And if it's cleared, then there you are in front of everyone to tell your story or do something like that. But like I said, if you can't write, if you can't go to cons, if you can't draw, you can't do any of that, and you don't really like documenting things or doing YouTube videos, there's always just being a voice on the forums. There's always a way to kind of put yourself out there too. Sometimes it's just helping someone on a forum, whether it be advice or helping them track down that figure they've been trying to look for, or reporting figures in your local area. Hey, I was at my Walmart recently and they just restocked, and taking a photo. We're so lucky today that, I mean, I look back when I first started doing YouTube stuff back in like 2009, and, I had to like buy a very specific camera, and then you had to have specific memory cards and lighting and everything like that. Now you could practically do everything with your phone. You take photos with your phone, you do videos with your phone, you do your editing with your phone, you do everything like that. And it's absolutely nutty. I mean, it's pretty crazy when you really think about it, like how much tools now we have at our disposal to be creative or to be involved in the fandom just with our smartphones in a lot of ways. But I mean, at the end of the day, really, like, fame should never really be your goal or getting your name out there. It should just be more about enjoying what you do. Whatever it is you feel you could contribute, do that. And if fame ends up happening, it's more just a side effect of it by being extremely active and helpful within the fandom, if anything else. I mean, and when I say side effect, I definitely mean that in a negative way. Let me tell you. You just want to just kind of just be out there. You know, it's something where if you want to be more involved, there's always ways to do it. It's just you have to figure out what you feel you could contribute. And everyone has something they could contribute. They just got to figure out what that is. You know, in my case, it was extensive knowledge, and especially like just experience in the industry, be it financial or creatively. So just partaking that and sharing that and letting people be under the learning tree is something that I give back. Now, obviously, I do creative writing too. I've done copywriting. I've done the bios on Transformer toys in the past. There's a lot of other things I've done also, YouTube videos, creative. I try everything, put it all out there, see what's fun to do. And I suggest you kind of do the same. Just try to figure out what is it you enjoy. And if something is a negative experience, it's not really something that you could see as something bad per se. It's just more, hey, I didn't like this. It's not for me. Good to know. That's all I always tell people. If you end up finding out that, this isn't for me, then that's good then. Because then you figured out that that's something you don't want to waste your time on. You can move on to the next thing. So just look at those things. Look at what you could do and what you could contribute. Sometimes it doesn't have to be something big and bombastic, like, I'm going to make these amazing, art displays and creative art and people are going to love what I do. Sometimes it's just the small things. Like if you're just the guy who helps people find toys, hey, like anyone trying to find, these Cosmos figures in the local area. Sometimes it's just small things even like that too. Not everyone has to be, this big bombastic character that sticks out and stuff. Sometimes it's just more doing what you do that you normally do, and then whatever happens, as a result of it will happen. But I hope that kind of, helps you understand a little bit. I mean, it's hard to kind of give that kind of advice because everyone is different. Everyone is of a different walk of life. So it's really tough to kind of specifically, for one individual do that. And everyone just has, different goals and ambitions and that energy and that grit, I guess is the best way to put it. So I hope that answers that. And I'm kind of curious what some people have to say about it in the comments. So let me know what you think. But again, if you want to be a patron like Cringe McCringle here and help support the podcast, let us know we're doing a half decent job. And hopefully you're enjoying the content that we put out here every single day in the Transformer world. Again, patreon.com/Protoman, or check the pinned comment or the description below. And rock out with the robots in the skies, and hope to talk to you guys in the near future.